Hello dear students, welcome to the lecture series of automata theory. The topic that we are going to learn today is about Greibach normal form. This is a normalization of a context-free grammar where we have the rules are of form capital A giving small a followed by capital X, where small a indicates exactly one terminal and X can be a substring that is containing 0 or more number of non-terminals. If my grammar has all the production rules are of this type, then I can say the grammar is in Greibach normal form or GNF. Now let us understand, if I want to convert a CFG to GNF, I have to use two lemma. So we'll first understand those lemma. So lemma 1 is, if I have a symbol saying I have a production rule that is capital A giving capital B alpha, okay, so in this case I can say that this capital A is giving a capital letter B which is followed by some alpha. Alpha is any of sentential form, which is a string with any combination of terminals and non-terminals, but it is starting with a capital letter B, and in that case B is another production rule which is having some production rules from beta 1, beta 2 till beta s, which can be either terminals or the non-terminals type rules. Okay, in that case what are we doing is we are just substituting a value in place of B here, okay, with all the values that the B is having. So here in place of B I'm putting the values as beta 1, beta 2, beta s, and the production rule which is starting with B, I'm keeping it as it is. I'm not even changing it, but I'm just substituting the values in production rule A. Wherever there is a B, I'm putting the values of all the productions of B, and that is the lemma 1. Okay, now let's see the next lemma. So lemma 2 is saying that if I have a production rule, A is giving A alpha 1, A alpha 2 till A alpha R, that means I have some production rules which are starting with A. A is the one from which my the production rule is initiating. Okay, so if this is the same letter it is starting with, okay, so I identify those rules as a different rules, and there are some beta rules, that is beta 1 to beta s maybe, where beta I is not starting with A. So I will just split it into two. Those were starting with the same letter A and those were not starting with the A. So if I have some production rule of this type, then how I'm doing this using lemma 2, I'm declaring a new variable there, that is Z. Okay, and I'm using a new production rule for Z. Now what I'm doing is I'm just skipping this A alpha 1, A alpha 2 part from this production rule A, and I'm just keeping this beta part in this A. So what I'm doing is, which are not starting with A, okay, so beta 1 to beta as I'm keeping as like that, and then the next rule I'm just adding Z at the end of all these rules, that is beta 1 to S in production of A. Now I'm writing a production for Z, and Z will be handling all those production which was starting with A. So those are having alpha 1 to alpha R. So Z is just giving you alpha 1 2 till R, and then another Z is there just to have the repeated symbols coming alpha 1, alpha 2 to alpha R followed by Z. So this particular production rule, if I want to just replace using lemma 2, I will be introducing this type of a 4 different rules that as I have shown in using lemma 2. So this is all about the rules that we are supposed to follow. Now let's take an example and try to solve the question. Now if I have a given question like this, convert the given context-free grammar to GNF, okay, that is Greibach normal form, and the grammar is given to me. So how do I solve it? First of all, I should make sure before converting it to GNF, it should be first converted to CNF. That means I will be following the first 3 steps of CNF. Let's do that. Now the step 1 will be remove all epsilon productions. So we can see that clearly in the given grammar there are no epsilon productions. We simply write there are no epsilon productions. Step 2 is to remove all the unit productions. But again in this grammar there are no unit productions, so we say there are no unit productions. So for your information, if you want to know what are the epsilon production, what is unit production. So epsilon production is some rule which is giving you epsilon. But in my grammar, I cannot see any such rule. And unit production is something where I have some capital letter giving a single capital letter. So such type of rules are also not there, and because of that we are saying there is no such kind of a production. If we would have this kind of a production, we would have to eliminate that, and then only we could have proceed. But now this grammar is clean, so we can just go ahead with the next step. So third step, we have to remove all the useless symbols and variables. But if you look at the grammar, there are no useless symbols or variables. That means s is going to some variable. Say for example, I have s is going to ac, and then there is no such rule which is starting with c. So I can say this is a useless symbol because the C is not there anywhere. So we can simply remove this kind of a production, that is as giving AC. But if you look at this grammar, all the rules are proper and there is no useless symbol. So we simply write there is no useless symbol and we need not to modify it. Now let's go to next step, that is step 4. Now the fourth step says modify the rules so that the non-terminals are in ascending order. So I have to basically rename the non-terminals. Now my non-terminals are S, A and B. So what if I replace S with A1, A with A2 and B with A3? So you see here in this particular grammar, I have written it as A1, A2, A3. Then looking at S giving A and B, that is A2 and A3. So I just modified it like that. Then A giving BS, that means A3, A1. Okay, this I just kept as it is. B giving SA, it is giving A1, A2 and then A. So I just modified my grammar and make them in the ascending order. Now there is a rule that I have to check. So the rule is like, if AI is giving AJ followed by X, then I should be less than J. मतलब अगर मेरे पास ऐसा कोई भी rule है that is having AI followed giving some AJ, so that AJ I should be less than J. X can be any string, okay, that I am having with the terminals and non-terminals. So I will check all the rules with this particular condition. So now I'll start and I'll check the first rule here. Now, which is the first rule that I'm having in my grammar is A1 giving A2, A3. Okay, so I'll just compare it over here. So I highlight first first symbol in the right hand side and the left hand side symbol. So A1 and A2, if it is there, and if I just correlate this with the rule AI giving AJ followed by some X, then I can say 1 is I and 2 is J. So 1 is less than 2, I can say here I is less than J, and I'll simply go forward. Now next rule to be considered is A2 giving A3, A1. So I'll just write down this rule number, production rule number 2. Again I highlight this first term, and now it is 2 less than 3. So I is again less than J, so that condition is satisfied. Now I'll write the next rule, that is rule 4 in the grammar, because rule 3 is A2 giving B, which is also okay. Rule 4 is A3 giving A1, A2. Okay, so how will I solve this? A3 giving A1, A2. Now here in this case I can say that this is A3 and A1. So here your I is not actually less than J, but what is it? Is it greater than J? Yes. So here I is greater than J. In this case, whenever my I is greater than J, I should be using lemma 1. So I'll write down using lemma 1. So lemma 1 will come only at that case whenever your I is greater than J. Okay. So using lemma 1, what I am doing is replace A1 with its values. So if you remember, we just substituted the value there in when we learn this lemma 1. So similarly, I will be doing that. Now, what are the values that I have here? So I can say A3 is giving A1, A2. But what is A1? A1 is A2, A3. Okay, so I'll simply write A2, A3, that is in place of A1, and now I'll just copy A2 as it is. So in place of A1, I got A2, A3. Okay, so this way I have just substituted the values here. Now I got another rule. So again I have to check whether it is following the conditions. So if I just highlight the I and J part, and I can say that here what is happening, I should be less than J, but again your I is greater than J. So what are we doing next? Again using lemma 1, replace the first term, that is A2, with its values. Okay, so what I am putting there now, A3 gives, instead of A2 I am putting its values. So what are the values of A2? A2 is giving A3, A1 and B. Okay, so A2 is giving A3, A1 and B. So A3, A1 followed by A3, A2, which is there in this previous grammar, if you see here. Yeah, so again here also I will be copying this A3, A2 after B. So A3, A2 is common, that I am just copying at the end, and in place of A2 I am substituting the value of A2, that is A3, A1 or B. Now I got the another rule. Now this rule, if you just see, this is a form B followed by X, so this is already not an issue, but now this rule has to be taken care of. So I'll consider this rule in the next step, that is I'll simply highlight the first two symbols. Okay, and now again I'll check what is the I and what is the J. So here, what is I and J? I is equal to J. So actually I should be less than J. Whenever I is greater than J, we are using lemma 1. So whenever I is equal to J, we are supposed to use lemma 2. So what I'm doing with the lemma 2 is, first of all, I'm writing the beta term of my A. So A3, what is a beta term? Beta term is the next part, that is B, A3, A2, which is starting with the terminal symbol or which is not starting with A3. Yeah, basically. And then beta followed by Z also will come here. So beta followed by Z. Now I have another production, that is Z. Z giving alpha term. What is the alpha term here? A3, A1, A3, A2, and then alpha term followed by Z. So if you are really confused about what is alpha term, I'll tell you again. So I call A3 giving something starting with the same letter, I call it as the alpha, and something which is not starting with the same letter, I call it as a beta. So here in this case, the first one is a alpha and the second one is a beta. So what I'm doing is here beta followed by beta Z, and another rule is beta Z, and in Z I have alpha wala rule and alpha followed by Z. So I'm just copying it as it is, and with this I'm done. If you observe now, here we get a next new rules with this particular thing, Z giving A3 and Z giving A3 again. But this Z we are not comparing in a ascending order. So that ascending order comparisons that we are doing over here, I is less than J or greater than J, is only with respect to the symbols which are with the A1, A2, A3. So Z is not in a comparison. So now we stop with the step 4 here. So now step 5 says, bring every rule to the form A giving A followed by capital X, that is of the form of GNF. So let me first write down the entire grammar that I have been solving in these entire steps. So now I'm just copying the entire grammar A1, A2, A3 and Z, all the rules. Okay. Here in the previous sum I just miss out one thing. When we solve this A3 giving A2 and then A3 considering as alpha and beta. So we just considered A3 was, we considered rule 4, but there is a rule 5 with the A3, that is A3 giving small a. If you see here A3 giving small a, that we should be considering when we are writing the this kind of a alpha beta thing. So I'll simply write down A3 giving here as extra production small a. So that will also come as a part of beta actually. So I can say the beta is all this which are starting with the terminal symbol here, and that's why in my grammar here I'll add, where I added all the beta term, a3 giving beta, there I should add a and beta followed by z for a is az. Okay, so this changes I'm doing now. And now altogether I have just written the entire grammar which I had just modified in step 4. Okay, now in step 5 I have to make sure that all the rules are of this form, a giving small a some terminal. Yeah, so which are the rules which are not starting with the terminal symbol? So I'll just highlight because these are starting with the non-terminal. The b, a2 giving small b is okay, a3 starting with small b is okay, small a is okay, z is having an issue which is starting with the capital letter. So these are the rules which are having an issue. We'll have to solve this. So now we have how many symbols to be modified? That is, I just highlighted a2, a3 and z. Oh, sorry, yeah, a2 and a3, these are the two symbols I have to put value for, right, that I have underlined. So it may say which one to choose first. So always go which is in the highest among these two. So a3 is the highest number as compared to a2, so we will be solving the highest number first. Okay, and that's why what we'll do, we'll first substitute the value of a3 wherever it is required. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm substituting a3 in a2 and z because a3 is coming in a2 and z wala production rule. So if I'm just modifying a2 production rule, what I'm doing is wherever there is a a3 that I have highlighted, there I'll put all the values of a3. So what is the value of a3? There are 4 different things that are coming in a3. So I'm just copying those things. Yeah, so a3 is actually this 4 terms. So what I'm doing, a3 followed by a1. Yeah, so first term of a3 followed by a1. Okay, so here I'm supposed, so now what are we doing is here the first value of a3 is b a3 a2 followed by a1, again b a3 a2 z followed by a1, then a followed by a1 and az followed by a1. So all these things are a3 terms which we just substituted, and b was earlier there in a2, so we just copied it. Now next coming to z, z has two production rule which are starting with a3. So we will have the first production rule is ending with, if you just see here, first production rule is ending with a1 a3 a2. Yeah, so first production rule is ending with a1 a3 a2 is coming 4 times for 4 values of a3. So I just put 4 values of a3 followed by a1 a3 a2, and second term is coming as a1 a3 a2 z at the end of 4 terms. So you can say a1 a3 a2 z at the end of all the 4 terms that I have taken from a3, and this way I got my a2 and z being modified. Now if I just try to observe a2 and z, there are no such rules which are starting with the non-terminal. So now these are all in the proper format. Okay, now only remaining one is the first rule, that is a1 starting with a2. So now I'll substitute that. So what I'm doing here is substitute a2 in a1, that is substitute this a2 in a1 here. So what is followed here is only a3. Yeah, if you can see properly, it is just a3 at the end of a2. So what are the values of a2? I'm following this particular rule. There are 5 values. So all the 5 values followed by a3. That is what I'm doing in the rule of a1. So with this we are solved all the rules. Now none of the rule is having improper rules, and now the grammar is finally in Greibach normal form. So at the end we just write the entire grammar properly. So I can say that finally the grammar is in Greibach normal form is given as follows, and I have written all the rules all together: A1, A2, A3 and Z. So this is the final grammar. Okay, with this we are done with the solution. If anyone has any doubts, please ask me in the comment box below. Thank you for watching.